Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marissa Aloya, and I am an office assistant at Scarlet Media. On behalf of the Rutgers University Online Learning Conference, I introduce Amy Mount from Gateway Regional School District. We are pleased to have her present Empathy at the Heart, Leadership Design for Adult SEL. During this presentation, please use the live Q&A feature to ask any questions of the presenter. At the end of each presentation today, there will be a short survey displayed. Any feedback you can provide is greatly appreciated. Enjoy the presentation.
Hi guys, I'm Amy Mount. I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction at Gateway Regional, and through shared services, I also serve National Park, Westville, and Woodbury Heights elementary school districts here in Southern New Jersey. It is a small group, so we want to keep this as interactive. I do have the Q&A up, so if you have any questions, any comments, any feedback, feel free, and we will answer those as we go through, since it's just a nice small group. So one of the many hats that I wear, since Gateway is a small district, is around professional development and supporting not only our teachers, our guidance counselors, our child study team, our secretarial staff, any sort of professional learning that needs to happen for the adults in the building is one of the things that I also take care of in addition to curriculum and instruction. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we have done over the course of the pandemic and our general approach to adult learning and adult SEL here at Gateway, and some of the things that we've done this year. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to share with you the bit.ly that will get you the slide deck for this presentation, as well as any of the other slide decks that I have available. They're all in Google Drive. You are welcome to take them and make copies and do whatever you would like to do with them. Okay. So prior to February of 2020, if you had walked into any of our classrooms, whether here at Gateway or any other K-12 school across the country, this would have been a very familiar sight. If you had taken Horace Mann, the great education reformer from the 1830s, and dropped him into February 2020, he would have had really no problems navigating the school system, because from 1830s until February 2020, school looked really familiar. Kids in rows, things we call, the graveyard effect, or kids working collaboratively together. Education really hadn't changed until March of 2020. And then the pandemic hit, and everything became so crazy different overnight. It feels really weird that a year ago we were just trying to figure out what we were doing. I looked at my Facebook memories, and last year, a year ago, I posted, I wasn't out of school yet. I hadn't been shut down yet, but I felt like it was coming. So let me know if I could answer any of my friends' questions about what school would look like. And then suddenly there we were. So in addition to leading schools and helping teachers navigate this, I also have my own two little learners at home. I have my daughter's avid. She's 3. We did manage to break the binky habit over the course of the pandemic. And David, this is 8. He is 8. This picture is hilarious. This is the corner of my office, where he has his own little desk for virtual learning, and he looks absolutely abjectly miserable in this picture because he had to do writing with his little Chromebook there. So, I empathize from both ends of the pandemic education process. Because this is my favorite GIF ever. We say a lot that we feel like we are building the airplane as we're flying it. This was from a Super Bowl commercial a few years ago. And this definitely felt like educating in the midst of a pandemic, that we were flying the airplane as we were trying to build it in the course of that. And over the course of the year, we really had to lean into this idea of leading with empathy. We've said a lot this year that education feels like we're all first-year teachers. Every teacher is a first-year teacher again. Every administrator is a first-year administrator again, because nobody has ever done this before. And so we are looking at ways that we can really empathize with our teachers, with our kids, with our families, to understand the process of educating in this new space and making it effective for everyone. I love this quote from George Bernard Shaw. It's not about doing what you would have people do unto you, because people might not like the same thing. So as leaders, leading in the midst of a pandemic, trying to educate in the midst of a pandemic, trying to think about what it's like to be a teacher or a student in the midst of a pandemic. We were never students in a pandemic. We were never teachers in a pandemic. And so we can't say, well, this is what I would do. This is what I enjoyed. So really leading into this idea of empathy. What is it like to teach now in a pandemic? What is it like to be a student in a pandemic? What is it like to be the parent of a child who needs an education in the midst of a pandemic? And leading into that idea of empathy to sort out what those different pieces mean. You know, leadership, this is another great quote from Oprah Winfrey about empathy, about relating and connecting with people for the purpose of inspiring and empowering their lives. So we're going to do a quick little activity about empathy. So we are going to design a baby mobile. Okay, so here for some inspiration are my two little babies when they were fresh, brand new little nuggets. So I want you to take a quick second and I want you to dream up what are the absolute most important pieces of a baby mobile. What makes a really fantastic baby mobile? If you want to type in some ideas in the Q&A on what are the really good pieces of a baby mobile. Music, yeah. So this is Avonlea. She had a really fancy baby mobile that had like a boombox thing attached to it. Colors, right? So we want things that are engaging. Theme, this is my son David. So you can see this is like the top of his was a little knight. Everything was knight and dragon themed. So he had a very elaborate knight and dragon themed. So, ideally a baby mobile probably looks something like this, right? So bright colors, a really engaging theme, something that's really cute. But here's one of the things that we really never think about as parents or as loved ones buying a baby mobile. What does the baby mobile look like from the perspective of the baby? Because if you're the little baby laying up, this is what you get to see, right? So empathizing and thinking about what is the end user experience of this interactive. If you're designing a baby mobile for a baby, maybe you hang these little owls differently so the baby could actually see the owls. It's one of the things that we just assume a mobile, we know what it's supposed to look like, and we hang it for us as the parents to make it cute. But it's not something that a baby could really, the end user is not really getting a lot out of this baby mobile. So that's one of the central tenets of design thinking. Design thinking is a process by which we really step through whether we're designing a product, whether we're designing a service, whether we're designing an idea, to really step through from the beginning to the end user. And it's an iterative process, right? It runs in a circle. So the beginning step, and the step that's probably the easiest to skip, is this idea of empathizing, of putting yourself in the shoes of the end user by really thinking about how will your product, your idea, your service, whatever it is, how is this going to impact the people who are going to use it at the ground level every day. So we're going to focus there. There are lots of resources available about the design thinking process. If you are in a K-12 school in the state of New Jersey, design thinking standards are coming in September 2022 as a requirement to be implemented. I'm happy to talk to you more about that and how we are working to build those into our K-12 curriculum here at Gateway and the schools that I work with. But empathizing is developing a habit of mind, right? So as leaders, as teachers, even I know I was guilty of this as in the classroom of, stepping into my lesson, stepping into my design with assuming that I knew what the challenges were and those things. Empathy really is about assuming the beginner's mindset when being confronted with a challenge and really thinking about the problems and the challenges from the end user's position, so that you can get fresh inspiration. And so we're not just jumping immediately to solutions, and we're not just jumping immediately to the way that we used to do things or things that have worked before, but really taking a step back and thinking about how is this going to impact the people who are using it. And it's hard work because it's really about challenging your own assumptions, and stepping back and thinking not about your own experiences and the things that you have, but thinking about the experiences of others. And one of the ways that is, really, really useful is in user experience surveys. We do a lot of surveys at Gateway, and I spent a lot of my time collecting survey data from parents, from community members, and from our kids, frankly, because those are some of the best responses that we get. So the gold standard, Goldilocks styled Likert scale questions are really popular in user experience surveys, but we have found, especially over the course of the pandemic, when you're writing close-ended survey questions, there's already a certain amount of assumption that goes into writing the questions, and you assume and that's what you're writing the questions about. So we have found it really valuable to put a lot of open-ended response questions and then do a lot of time doing that open analysis of those open-ended responses, asking teachers, asking our kids, asking our families about what's challenging, what's working well, what are our worries, what are the concerns for the future. And then the best question that we've asked on any of the surveys that we've done over the last year is, what do you want us to know? What else can you tell us? And we have found really, really amazing data from all of the different user groups about how things are working for schooling for them so that we can continue to refine our practice and move forward with that. So empathy, again, I said it's a mindset that you have to cultivate. It's something that you have to work to do. I have a link to one of these articles from the Greater Good Science Center at the end of the slide deck. Again, I'll give you the link to the slide deck at the end of this about cultivating curiosity and asking why and how might we, and really listening to the users, listening to the people who were involved, not to respond to them, but listening just to understand, and trying to understand what their experience is about. And then from there, working on ideating, right? That's the second step of the design thinking process. Now that we've empathized, we know what the pain points are, we know what the bright spots are. How do we come up with new solutions? How do we come up with out of the box ideas? How do we come up with things that we haven't done before and test and try? And so one of the best questions that we've framed in the work that we're doing is not how, but how might we, right? So if we know that time in normal schooling is a problem, so how might we structure our time to build up our faculty and staff? How might we think about the contract time that we have with teachers in a different way? How might we find different out-of-the-box ways to increase direct instruction opportunities? And as the pandemic is winding down and we're talking about next year, how do we carry forward some of the really great things that we've done in virtual learning and bring that self-paced and independent learning with us as we move forward out of the pandemic back to things that look like normal school? And, this is, I had a mentor who this was one of her favorite sayings, it's really overwhelming, all of these different pieces, but we eat the elephant one bite at a time. We find one thing that we need to work on and we work on that one thing. So at the beginning of the pandemic, it was, how do we structure time with kids? How do we get a balance of face-to-face direct instruction with a teacher and a kid, and not have kids and teachers sitting behind a Zoom all day long, because Zoom fatigue is a real thing. So we really worked on schedules and refining schedules and things like that. And now as we're moving forward, in the fall, it was really, how do we improve the instruction? And as we're moving into the spring, and now the bite that we're working on is, how do we improve the meaningful connections? How do we find the bright spots? How do we look for the things that are working really well, and bring them forward? And then how do we address the fact that it's been a year and everybody is really tired, and this is dragging on, and it's really hard to continue. All the novelty of the pandemic has worn off at this point. So how do we find that energy to keep pushing? We start by saying yes. If it sounds like a really cool opportunity, if it sounds like a really cool thing to do, we take a position that we are going to say yes, and then figure out how to do it. So when we did a user experience survey, and our kids said Wednesdays are exhausting, we had them running through 25-minute classes, 8 periods a day. And we said, yep, it's exhausting. So how do we find a way to change this? How do we restructure and look at things a little bit differently? So, taking all those opportunities and finding ways to say yes, and saying not yes, but, right? As leaders, as educators, we are really, really good at saying, yeah, but that sounds good, but, and finding the buts. So we're trying to work that out of our vocabulary. Again, it's a mindset that's very difficult, and finding ways to say yes and. So we had a tradition at Gateway, that in the spring of every year we took one of our professional development days and we made it an entirely a wellness day. So we would have teachers who led bike rides for each other and taught sewing classes, and came together, and all of our teachers, signed up either to teach or to engage in a session where they're learning about somebody else's hobby, something else that was fun. And we love that tradition, but in a pandemic, teaching some of those things would be really, really difficult, and finding the time to do this would be really difficult. So we knew that a staff and a wellness day, and investing time into adults is good. It is a good thing. It is a thing that our teachers enjoy. It's just hard in a pandemic. So it was really easy to say, yes, but it's hard to do. Yes, but there are so many other things that we need to work on. There are so many other pedagogy things, so many other technology things that we need to work on. And, yes, but there's really no time in the schedule this year because of the way that we structured our PD days. And so we said, nope, yes. And we're going to figure out the way to do this. And we're going to find some time to do this, because if we spend the time on doing this now, it helps build our teachers up, and they will be more prepared to move on to those things. Because how you treat your employees has the most impact on anything that we do. So this is what we came up with. We did a wellness day, and these are the exact slides that we used with our teachers. And you are welcome to, when I give you the slide deck, use any of those things. So we went to the teachers and we said, hey, what do you want to do? If we do a wellness day in an afternoon, we can't have a whole day, but we can definitely carve out an afternoon into 30-minute sessions. What do you want to do? And so we had some of our counselors offer to do a session. One of our counselors offered to do a session on compassion fatigue. Some teachers offered to do a Zoom game that they had played with family members. It was really great. We had another counselor who did some guided meditation. Then we just found some activities that would be good that they could do on their own. And then we found some other more directive things, some self quizzes, and some really amazing TED Talks. So these are the different choices that we offered up to teachers as ways to find this greater good, learning about yourself. These quizzes were actually really, really crazy popular. We had a teacher who said, hey, my yoga teacher at my yoga studio will do a video for us. And she recorded us a 30-minute video and sent it to us. And so our teachers were able to do that. Then we had teachers share their selfies and share a PD survey in order to get their activities. So we had a whole bunch of things. Teachers made cookies with their kids and did journaling and took walks. And then in the survey responses, it was really, really meaningful to see the teachers talk about how they were able to spend quality time with their family, that they shared the TED Talks that they were doing with their family at home, that they took the quizzes and some of the videos and they were actually going to use them with their high school kids. And I thought some of the ones that were really funny, you know, everybody feels like work is really painful during the pandemic, but a lot of those quizzes, they were like, oh, I'm happier than I thought I was, and I'm less stressed than I thought I was. So it was a nice reflective piece. So I think I have like 3 or 4 minutes left. So if you are still with me, I want you to grab a piece of paper and a pen. It can be a sticky note, the back of any sort of sheet of paper that you've got somewhere, because we are going to do this really, really fast visualization activity that I just want to leave you with something good. Okay. So if you've got a piece of paper and a pen, what you are going to do is this visualization activity. So we are going to build a house, right, with your piece of paper, but it's a little tricky because I need you to, we're going to draw this house without lifting your pen off of the paper, right? So that's one of the rules. Your pen has to stay on the paper the entire time. And the other rule is you have to keep your eyes shut, all right? So this is the honor system. You can see me, but I can't see you. So we are going to trust that you are keeping your eyes shut the entire time. All right, so here we go. So as a leader, it's important for us to create a really safe space for our team so that when we bring them into our side of the house, they have safety and security to speak up without fear, whether we're leaders or whether we're teachers. So with your eyes shut and not lifting your pencil, I want you to draw a square representing the foundation and the framing of your house. And it's our job as leaders to provide safety along with vision to the team, and that starts at the top. So draw a triangle on top of your square representing your roof. Again, eyes shut, don't lift your pen. As leaders, you must keep the door open to your team, not just for direction, but also from refuge from the difficult stuff that comes their way throughout the day. So I want you to draw a door inside your square to the right. In order to empathize with our stakeholders, we have to see things from their perspective, not ours. So draw a window inside the square to the left of the door. For data and accountability leads, right? So let's face it, we are hired to help our schools, our districts, our organizations grow and compete. But as leaders, in order for the organization to grow, we have to take care of the people and tend to and nurture and water their emotional well-being. So I want you to draw a tree to the left of your square. And leading, we know, isn't easy, and the journey is often really difficult, and it takes a lot of focus and energy. So I want you to draw a sun to the right of the house. So leading isn't easy, and we know it's often a thankless and lonely job, and yet we can't do this alone. We all need support. So I want you to draw yourself and your strongest well-being champion, whether that's a spouse, a boss, a colleague, outside and to the right of the square. And finally, before you open your eyes and see that the sun has burnt a hole in your roof or there's an oversized tree in your living room and the house that you are leading for your team, it's important that your team sees you as you show up authentically and honestly equal, because while your roles may be in different positions on an org chart, empathy for fellow human beings should not be. Being vulnerable is a key part of leadership because that's when a house becomes a home. So on the bottom in the middle, sign your name. All right, so that's it. So now open your eyes and admire your beautiful house. And I encourage you to keep a hold of this picture and hang it up somewhere as a reminder to you of your purpose, of your value, of your leadership, and of your empathy for everyone that you work with. Share it with your kids, share it with your colleagues, and I hope you enjoyed this. So that is the end. I am being clapped off here by the fabulous presentation staff. Again, I'm Amy Mount. I'm the Director of Curriculum at Gateway. If you ever need anything, you can find me at amount@gatewayhs.com. If you go to bit.ly/Amy Mount and click on Works at the top, there is the slide deck for this presentation that includes everything, including the visualization activity and a bunch of resources. So that is it for me. Thank you guys so much for attending.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this presentation and enjoy the rest of your time at RU Online. Have a great day.